only 5% of Americans are eating enough fiber, which is 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. For most women, it's 25 grams. For men, it's 35 grams. So only 5% of us are getting to that mark.
What's up, sisters? Welcome to the Period Whisperer podcast. I'm Bria. I'm your host. If you're new, I'm so happy you are here. I'm your perimenopause and menopause sister, your holistic trainer, hormone specialist, translator of your female body. I'm a recovering people pleaser and hustle addict turned body whisperer and hormone decoder. And I am here to help you de-stress your body, decode what it is saying, become the CEO of it, and own your own health, energy, and weight loss again. This show is for you, the overwhelmed, overworked, underappreciated step woman who dreams of a body they feel strong, energetic, and sane in. The woman who knows that she shouldn't just wave the white aging flag and believes in a body and life of peace, love, and purpose. But you don't just know how to get there yet. So if you are stuck in your body, your energy, your life, you are in the right spot. Let's lean in and learn what our bodies are saying to us. Hey there, sister. Welcome to a very exciting episode of the Period Whisperer podcast. Now, whether you are new to the podcast or you've been listening for a while, you may or may not know that I've actually been a vegetarian since I was 9 years old. Now, although I know that there are a lot of health benefits to being plant-based, like the micronutrients and plants are so valuable when it comes to supporting your hormones and metabolic function, especially as we go through perimenopause. I also know that getting in 30 grams of protein in your meals is key to hormonal health and optimal energy, body composition, and really so many pieces of the puzzle when you're in this hormonally shifting time and just not feeling as awesome as you know in your heart and your gut that you should. I am a vegetarian. Really, I started as more for ethical reasons than anything else. So I know how challenging this piece is to start to make this shift, whether you have a family and trying to transition how you eat, because it can be met with a lot of roadblocks, or even just the time and the bandwidth to learn like new ways of eating and cooking. So whether you're already plant-based or just wanting to learn more about how it might help you feel better in perimenopause, how it might really support your hormones or how to incorporate this transition, this episode is going to be awesome for you. Not too long ago at a conference I was at, I connected with an incredible woman and immediately felt fascinated by her story. And I wanted to have her on the show here to share. I know you're going to love her story as much as I did and learn so much from her. So our guest today is Ali Essig, a plant-based nutritionist, the founder of PlantWise, and the creator of plant-based courses and memberships where she helps women and moms lose weight, improve their health, and overcome emotional eating with a plant-based diet. She is a wife and mother of 6 children. That is a family of 8. And she's here today to talk to us about the benefits of plant-based living, how to have clarity and direction when incorporating more of a plant-based living like lifestyle into your life, and even overcome emotional triggers around food. So I am so grateful for you to be here, Ali. Welcome to the Period Whisperer podcast.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
Yeah, I'm so happy. I'm excited. I got to hear a bit of your story when we chatted a little bit, but why don't we start there and tell everyone a little bit about how you even came, because it's not a little thing to go plant-based. It's not even super common, although it's becoming more and more. But let's start with, how you came to be.
Right, exactly. Why would me with 6 kids want to do this to our family? No, so I live in the Washington, D.C. area, and I used to work on Capitol Hill for a congressman. My husband's an attorney. We're very much living the D.C. life. And in October 1st, 2019, right after we had twin babies, so they're number 5 and 6. So we'd added them to our life, and they were around 9 months old when my husband was sitting at work one day and all of a sudden just felt ill and his vision became double vision. And he had the thought, I don't want to die in my office. And so he kind of got up because he knew it was something serious, but wasn't sure what was going on. He couldn't see straight. He got up, he talked to, the receptionist. She saw him and immediately knew in her heart that he was having a stroke. So she called 911. Yeah, you could just tell, you could just kind of see it. She called 911. The ambulance came and they were trying to get a hold of me. Well, I happened to be showering, at the time. And so
in the 2 minutes you had to shower that day.
Yeah. Right, exactly. Out of all the times, something crazy happened. So then they called my neighbor. My neighbor came over, knocked on the shower. Like, luckily my door was unlocked. Came in, knocked on my bathroom wall, like, hey, your husband's on the way to the hospital. We're not sure what happened. It's something with his vision. And so I hurried and got dressed. It ended up being a blessing that this is how it happened, because she could watch my kids while I left, right? So then I left, I ran in, and I will never forget opening the door to the ER, scanning the room, trying to find my husband. I see this man slumped over in a wheelchair, and it was my husband. He looked like he'd aged 50 years. He looked like he was 80 years old. And immediately in my heart, I knew, like, whoa, he looks like he's having a stroke. But of course, it takes hours in the ER, so many tests, so many things to try to figure out what's going on. And I just kept asking, is this stress? Is this because of stress? Does this happen? Because we have, again, just had twins with 6 kids. My husband's a busy attorney. And the doctor said, no, like, he looked at me, he's like, this is not just because of stress. Like, this is more serious than that. There's something, an underlying issue that's going on. Of course, stress can exacerbate anything, but there's something else. So after many tests were performed, they came to the conclusion that he was having a stroke, that there was a blood clot lodged, somewhere around in his cranial nerve that affected his vision. And luckily, over time, it did clear up. And once it did clear up his face, because he was kind of slumped over, once it did clear up, his face looked a little more normal, but his vision was still affected. And so he couldn't see clearly, like the double vision remained for 6 months, actually. So it took a long.
You said he was 37, right?
Oh, yeah.
Okay. 37.
Right. Forgot to mention that. He was super young. So of course, we're in the hospital wondering, like, why would a 37-year-old be having a stroke? Is it a family history? Is there a hole in his heart? Is there, heart arrhythmia? So we ran all of those tests and they all came back negative. So there was no why. Like, I was just hoping, like, oh, it's just a hole in his heart. That's why. Fix it. Done. Move on. Yeah. But no. So they gave us in the hospital. We stayed for 3 days and they said, okay, from here on out, because he's had one stroke, he's likely to have another one. So you need to follow a heart healthy diet just to reduce your chances moving forward. And they kind of explained what a heart healthy diet was. They're like, you need to avoid trans fat, saturated fat, cholesterol, eat more fiber, no alcohol. And that was all a foreign language. I'm like, great. What do I make for dinner?
Yeah.
Like, where are these foods found? I have no idea. So I remember driving home from the hospital and actually calling my mom. And all of these memories flooded back from when my mom called me after my dad had a heart attack. But my dad didn't survive. It was my dad's one and only heart attack. He was just 55 years old. And at the time, years before then, I remember praying and wishing that my dad would have gotten a second chance. Like, why couldn't he have just gotten a second chance to change his diet, to have, lived longer? And we never got that. But in my mind, I was like, we have gotten our second chance. Like, that prayer I offered earlier is being answered now. I'm getting a second chance with my husband. And so I'm going to take it. And I'm going to dive deep into this heart healthy diet. I'm going to figure out what is the absolute best diet to prevent my husband from having a stroke in the future, because I didn't want to lose him like I lost my dad. Yeah. So that's how my journey into plant-based eating started. And we saw so many benefits. I started slow. I mean, you have 6 kids, and right after a really traumatic health event, you have so many wonderful people dropping off food that is definitely not heart healthy, but
yeah,
I know, right? Very comforting. And I was so grateful for it. And I think that's another thing to be aware. Sometimes we have to take a step back and look that, food is a symbol of love. Yeah. And I was so grateful that they had been there for us during that time, because it's an emotional process and so hard. But after those meals started to dwindle off, I, just started incorporating more plants, more salads, more vegetables, just all of the good things. I didn't think about what we were cutting out. I just thought about adding in first, because it felt a lot less overwhelming.
Yeah.
And my husband started to lose weight and he wasn't even that overweight, but he immediately lost within the first month or two, 20 pounds. Wow. Just by eating more, not having to count anything, just eating more of the good stuff.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And then over again, the 6 months, he eventually got his vision back. So
Oh,
to
gosh.
us, it was a miracle.
Oh, that must have been such an intense time for you. I
Right.
just, yeah, like that whole story, it's so emotional. My gosh. And like to navigate all of that. And you're right. It's so wonderful to have like support and blessings during that time. But so in that first 6 months, like, so are you guys completely plant-based?
We are 90%. I always, I kind of live in a way where if I absolutely can't find something, I will eat animal products because I would rather not go hungry.
Yeah.
Uh, so in that sense, and sometimes with our kids, like when we travel, I'm like, okay, yeah, let's get pizza, or we'll go to,
Yeah.
fast food, or they can order whatever they want. My kids are probably closer to 80%.
Okay.
But I do not buy, this is how I set my boundaries, because it's difficult, but my boundaries were, from here on out, I am no longer going to buy meat or cheese at the grocery store.
Okay.
And so all of the foods that I make, it forced me to really think beyond the box. I couldn't just make my typical, cheese quesadilla for dinner with kids.
Right.
Like, okay, what am I going to do instead? Okay, I could do what's just as fast, because I always still want a convenience. So I was like, maybe beans and salsa instead, and it was hard, but it forced me. If I didn't have the option there at my house, then I would have to use what I did have and Google a million recipes. I always Google vegan lasagna, vegan, whatever. And there's so many resources that it made it possible.
I love it. That's an amazing share. I hope everyone here, because I think when it comes to changing any of your nutrition, like saying never, ever, ever, I think is just a really tall order that can set us up for failure. Some people it works for, but no matter what you're working on, either cutting out or improving, that's a really great boundary. Like I'm just never buying it at the grocery store, these two things. Cause then that really cuts down, right? On like, sure, if you go out to dinner, or you go out to someone's house and they serve it and you want to do it, go for it. But what is significance? That really probably puts you right in that 80-20.
Yeah. Exactly. And honestly, you eat a lot at home. I don't think we realize that. Like breakfast, lunch, most dinners. So it immediately changes our diet just doing that.
Yeah, you're talking about 21 meals and plus snacks, a week. Like, most of them really are at home for most of us. So, so obviously your husband's health massively improved. That's incredible. Did you notice any changes for you?
Yeah. So mine as well. I lost like 5 pounds. I didn't really need to lose a ton of weight at the time, but I lost 5 pounds again without even trying. More energy, which is always helpful as a mom. Being able to feel energy and go throughout the day. So I felt great. And there was just like this crazy passion that ignited inside of me. Like, everyone needs to know this. I just became really passionate about the benefits of just plants. Only 1 in 10 Americans eat just 5 fruits and vegetables a day. Only 1 in 10. Like, we're not adding in just the basis, right? The basic things that we know we should to reduce our risk of disease in the future.
That's a great stat. But let's talk about that a little. Like, so the goal was to shift more plant-based because it cut out the trans fat, the saturated fats.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about, like, I guess, how that impacts the body, like what the health benefits are there, and if there are any other health, I guess you also said eating more fruits, plants and plant foods, then we're increasing our micronutrients. But yeah, talk a little bit more about the benefits of eating more plant-based.
Right. So when I did get that piece of paper that said avoid trans fat, saturated fat, cholesterol, I came home and I just started doing the research of like, what foods are they found in? So trans fat, luckily there was a trans fat ban recently. So you're not seeing it as much as we used to, but you will still see it in fried foods, in microwave popcorn, in any of those like desserts and treats that are usually left on the grocery store shelf for weeks that stay stable for a while. And everything has to be below 1 gram of trans fat in all these foods. So it's not as much, but still can be found if you're buying a lot of processed foods, like ready to serve meals.
Yeah.
As far as saturated fat goes, anyone can search this up. What is the number 1 source of saturated fat in the American diet? And I was shocked to find out it's cheese, it's dairy. Yeah. So that's where my husband's like, I could totally give up meat, but I could never give up cheese. And then when I found that out, that especially now saturated fat is affecting more the buildup of plaque in your arteries than cholesterol is, right? And so in that sense, I'm like, we really need to cut down our saturated fat. And the American Heart Association recommends no more between, I think, 5% of your overall calories, which is about 10 grams for the average woman, 10 grams or less a day, which if you were to really look and see like where trans or where saturated fat is, it builds up very fast if you're eating a lot of dairy products, like, from cheese or butter. Then after that is red meat. So cutting that down was important. And then cholesterol is mostly just found in animal products in general. There's eggs, but we weren't eating a ton of that anyway. The key that I found was the fiber. And I think learning more about fiber, and at the time I was like, do we need to just eat more fiber one bars? Like I didn't quite understand where fiber is found. And number one, only 5% of Americans are eating enough fiber, which is 25 to 35 grams of fiber a day. For most women, it's 25 grams. For men, it's 35 grams. So only 5% of us are getting to that mark. And fiber is only found in plants. Like that's where it's only found. And it's not just fruits or vegetables. It's whole grains, legumes, nuts, seeds.
Actually, that's a really good point. I think we should just define that, because I think we think plant food and we think, people have said to me, oh, well, you're a vegetarian. What do you only eat vegetables. But plant foods, which contain all these beautiful micronutrients and fiber, are, like you said, they are found in grains. They are found pretty much anything that grows, I guess, that's not an animal.
Yes, exactly. So it's found in all those, and your gut microbiome absolutely loves fiber. So your gut microbes, and they love different types of fiber. So some gut microbes love fiber from broccoli, others love fiber from apples. Any type of plant, you want to really build up an army of the good gut microbes. And in order to do that, you need to eat a variety of different plants. Some love beans, some love whole grains. And so adding that variety is like building up, like a really balanced ecosystem. And we want to add more of the good things, because when your gut eats the fiber, the gut microbes, they produce what's called short chain fatty acids. Short chain fatty acids are acetate, butyrate, propionate, and they help your memory. They help your gut lining, strengthen your gut lining. They help reduce your risk of cancer, of diabetes, of heart disease, and of stroke. So as we're eating fiber, your gut's producing these compounds, these short chain fatty acids that are then going to go throughout your whole body and reduce your risk of disease. And so I just wish that we all knew how amazing fiber is and really made it more of a priority.
I love that. And to insert a little bit, like to make it super relevant for perimenopause and hormonal, it's like your gut, like any support we can provide our gut during this time, and strengthening that gut, is so significant, because any irritation to the gut or any like sluggishness to the gut really throws off our hormones further, making it harder for us to manage. Likewise, with all these, all the micronutrients as well as the fiber and the veggies, like it's like having more tools to do the job that's being asked of your body right now, which I think is, I'm like, and good tools, right? Like I always say, it's like really good tools for the body that are going to be found, in plant foods are like the difference between buying Lululemon leggings or leggings at Walmart. There's a big, they're both tools, both leggings, both tools, but they provide a different result in your body. So I love that. I love that you shared that. So obviously super helpful overall. Do you have a recommendation for like how many plant foods you try to shoot for? You said only 5% of Americans get
enough fiber.
Enough
and so
fiber.
5% of Americans are getting enough fiber, and only 1 in 10 Americans are eating just the 5 a day, which the World Health Organization has recommended to reduce your risk of disease. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So
go ahead. Sorry.
I always tell people just to start there. I'm like, let's just start getting to five fruits and vegetables a day, even if it's just 5 apples a day. Like just whatever it is, just eat more plants, whatever's the most convenient, the way that you love to do it, the way that's easy. I want you to really think, if I were to make this easy, then how could it happen? If I were to make this enjoyable, then how could I add more plants? And so if it's the same plant, start there. Let's get
I think, and tell me if this is correct, but I've like things like seeds and nuts and even herbs and spices are all plant foods and can add that. So, when you think about, sometimes it's like 5 fruits and vegetables seems like a lot when you're not eating that many. But if you think about just like adding some seeds for your seed cycling, if you're doing that, or, adding some seeds on your salad or some herbs and spices, I mean, you can get there really a lot faster than you think.
Right. And anything helps. In fact, Spices, herbs and spices have more antioxidants than any other food, ounce per ounce. So even just adding just a dash of cloves, for example, to like your morning oatmeal, you're going to significantly increase the amount of antioxidants in there. Adding like a tablespoon of oregano to your spaghetti is going to like triple the amount of antioxidants that were already in your spaghetti. So yes, the more herbs and spices that you can add, the more antioxidants you're getting, which is going to help in so many different ways.
Oh, yeah. That's so okay. So those are some really great tips. If we're talking about how to start to eat more plant-based, I've heard you say, let's start with just crowding out, like almost like let's just eat more of the fruits and vegetables and not worry so much about like, oh, I'm just not eating meat. Let's just start adding in the fruits and vegetables and the fiber and the plant. Well, we'll say plant foods to our meals, and even just starting with that kind of goal of 5. What else? Do you have any other tips? Like for people, I mean, you have a family of 8. So, maybe here's like, what is it like in the week in the life of you when it comes to like meal planning, shopping, and cooking? What does that look like, and how, or what tips can you offer?
I know, right?
That was a good laugh.
So going back to, yes, I think any little change matters. I want to just reinforce that even swapping out just 3% of animal protein with plant protein, so that's like 1 meal a week, just doing that small swap. So, meatless Mondays can decrease your risk of dying from all causes by 10%.
Oh my gosh. Dying from all causes.
All causes.
10%.
I mean, it's a big gift you can give your family. And I know they may be like, oh, mom, where's the meat? Or even just, instead of making tacos with all ground beef, let's add more beans, a little less meat, maybe cut them in half. Like you can just eat meat a little more sparingly. Maybe it's not a huge center, and you can still add in the protein by adding in, other quinoa and legumes and other, lentils. I had never even cooked lentils in my life until I started doing this. And now lentils are like my favorite thing. So I know, right? They're so good. Yeah. And so when it comes to even just eating plant-based, what I love about it so much is when you do stock your shelves with lentils, with beans, that I really can throw a meal together so fast because I have a really great food storage. So if we came, from out of town, I can put together like a lasagna soup made from red lentils, and some of the spices, nutritional yeast, things like that, instead of cheese. And I don't have to worry that I always have those things on hand, which is really nice. So it's one of our favorite go-tos.
Let's take a minute and make sure everyone listening knows about nutritional yeast, because I think that it is so, if you don't know about it, you are missing out. It is like such a powerful ingredient that adds flavor, that adds mega nutrients. Can you speak to what it is?
Yeah. So it's not the typical yeast that you use for like a baker's yeast for rice things. But yeah, it's called nutritional yeast because there's B12 and some other nutrients in there that are really good for you. But it has this nutty flavor, this really kind of cheesy, nutty flavor that even before we went plant-based, I remember I experimented with it once and I put it over broccoli and I'm like, whoa, this made my broccoli so much better. Like this is really good.
Yeah. I agree. It's like such an easy, and it has protein in it. And like you said, the B12s, which are really important for hormones. Like, yeah, it's so if you are not already having it in your cupboard, go out and buy some. It's not expensive. Stick it, put it on your eggs, put it in your soups, put it on your salads, put it on whatever. Like you said, your vegetables, it will change your life.
It's and like whatever you put Parmesan cheese over, you like swap it with nutritional yeast.
Yeah, so good. Oh, that's amazing. Okay, I'm sorry I interrupted. So these are some really great tips so far. Keep going.
Oh yeah. So as far as when it comes to meal planning, it's ironic that I'm like not a meal planner. I just go grocery shopping, I get my basics, and then the day of I look in the fridge and I'm like, what fruit or vegetable is about to go bad if I don't use it right now? So that I try to really minimize waste. I think that's like my highlight, is where I try to incorporate like, okay, we already have cooked rice. We have, this tofu Alfredo sauce I made before. Let's turn this into like a broccoli casserole with some chickpeas. I just really love the creative process. Yeah. I love the creative process of just not planning. But it's because I've done this for a while now that it's really fun for me. But I really like to minimize waste, because I think that's the biggest thing, where people will buy a bagged salad and they'll be with good intentions of eating it, and they'll end up throwing it away. Right? It goes back.
Yeah. So I love that you brought that up, because I think like people, obviously, as we said, like there's a lot of great health reasons. That's a big passion for you. There's a lot of ethical reasons to eat plant-based, but there's a lot of environmental reasons to shift plant-based. And you kind of touched on it there, even just with, when you're just being aware and being creative and being able to use. I know one of my very best friends is a vegetarian purely for environmental reasons. I mean, the others are a benefit, right? The other things are a benefit, but so if you're one of those, if you're someone who really has a lot of passion, you can feel really good about the impact that has, but that's amazing. So, because I am not very creative. My sister operates like you, where it's like, she can just like talk to me, and I'm like, no, I must know everything. And I'm a fan of not wasting as well. But if I don't know, I'm like, I have no idea what we're doing. Like, just no idea. So I think that's an amazing, do you think it can be learned?
I think so. I think, based off of trying new recipes. I think that's the thing too. You have to be willing to try new recipes, be familiar with the flavors and what it takes. And then it's really easy to just kind of throw it together. I'm a Pilates instructor. And for years, I would spend an hour planning my class before I taught the class. Yeah. And now I can just show up and because it's all in there. So I think it's the same when it comes to, trying something, anything new. It's like playing the piano. You're going to need to follow instructions, follow directions at first. And it's been 4 years since we went plant-based. So I've had 4 years of trying different recipes. And even on my YouTube channel, I'm still like trying new recipes for that channel. And I'm learning, it forces me to learn even more. And so you can do that for a while. It gets to the point where it's easy. It's like you have to fail. Failure is part of success. It's just, you're going to fail with some recipes. Just expect it. It's part of it. Everyone's going to hate it. You're going to throw some meals away, and that's okay. You're going to get to a point. There's a light at the end of the tunnel. I promise.
It's so great. And I love your YouTube channel. So I'm excited. We'll put that in the show notes. Make sure everyone can go and check it out and watch. But, so when you make something and like, do you guys sit as a family of 8 for dinner? Is that for the most part, if you can? I mean, I'm sure it's harder as kids are getting older, but. Right.
At least once a week we do. My kids are all in soccer, dance, gymnastics. So my afternoons are like, I cook dinner, it's there. And then I am literally running like basketball. I mean, it's like sometimes multiple things around. Shuttle people around. So, but on the weekends, we always try to make it a priority.
I love that. So when you cook dinner, whether it's a weekday or a weekend and everyone's sitting together, I would assume there are times where you have kids who are like, no, or not for me, mom, thanks. Or this, I'm sure there's some of that, 6 kids, you must have some of that. Yes.
Right. Yes. 100%.
What happens then? Like, what's your, as a mother, like, what's the next step after that?
Yeah. I tell them they're welcome to grab, because I don't have meat or cheese in my house. Mm-hmm. They're welcome to grab whatever they want in the fridge. I'm not making 2 meals, but if they want to make a peanut butter sandwich, that's totally fine. Okay. And so there are days that 3 of my kids made a peanut butter sandwich, have lots of leftovers. And that's okay. But it happened before. And I think that's the key too. It's not like before we went plant-based that every meal I made was a win, that they loved everything. I still made meals and they're like, Mom, this isn't great. And they didn't like it. So you're never going to have a perfect score. Like perfect doesn't exist.
Yeah. Because everybody likes different things. And so I absolutely get that. I only have 2 kids and I feel like no matter what, one will like it and one will really not. And it doesn't matter what it is. It's just like this balance of like this law of balance or reciprocity in the family. It's such a funny thing. If I make something that has 2 components, one will like one component, one will like the other. It's just, some people are different. Do you have a cookbook?
We do. We have multiple. We have seasonal cookbooks as well, because it's like spring is different, fall, winter. Fall is my favorite. Spring, I don't know. They're all my favorite, actually. Like I have a team, so I didn't do it all by myself. I think as I started my business, I recognized that we can do more with more people, and so I brought on some other amazing cooks, and we've collaborated on these cookbooks. So it's under the Plantwise name, but it's all of us, together. So it's been great.
Really great. I assume those are on your website. We can check those out there. Yep. Okay, awesome. Do you have any like plant-based mentors that you're inspired by, or people that you follow that have really inspired you, or whose cooking you really like?
Yeah, as far as education, like I love Simon Hill. I could listen to him all day, just accent, but he's also incredibly intelligent. So I love Simon Hill. But as far as cooking goes, Oh man, I love Minimalist Baker. I
Oh, I
love,
love the minimalist
yeah,
baker.
so great. I'm blanking on like all the ones I
That's
follow right
okay.
now, but there's so many.
On the spot.
I really love Faithful Playful. She's actually part of our team. I look at recipes, like I really love a rainbow plant life. She's
Okay.
on YouTube, but her recipes are almost a little too complicated for me.
Okay.
Like, I'm like, I have to go buy that. I don't have that ingredient.
Yeah.
So I love that Faithful Playful, who's a team member on our team, it's like everything I know I have in my pantry. It's
Yeah.
not anything crazy. I'm already going outside of my comfort zone to just, not be making meat. So
Yeah.
I don't want to have to be buying all these crazy ingredients. And, now I have like liquid smoke, I have nutritional yeast, I have a couple other things. And once you're there, then you can pretty much make everything.
Yeah, I love that. It's almost like if you just start incorporating, again, the focus is if one meal a week we know increases your, what was it? Was increases your avoidance of of cancers and diseases by 10%. Is that what you
Yeah.
said?
Yeah,
Okay.
all causes disease, like
All causes. That's what it was.
early mortality of all causes by 10%.
Which is a massive stat. So even if you're just looking at, okay, well, once a week I look at a recipe, I do a new recipe, then you do start to slowly gather, some of the key components of a different way of eating to have around the house. So
Yes.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
I know one of the things that's awesome. These have been incredible tips, Allie. Thank you. I know one of the things that you help people focus on as well is just, like the emotional triggers around, I mean, maybe it's weight loss or just changing our eating, or I'll let you talk about it, but I'd love to hear more.
Yeah. So after my husband's stroke, I ended up becoming a nutritionist and helping people because I wanted to share with the world, like, this is the way, And as I start working with people, I realized that if people, know they need to eat plant-based for health reasons, they've, had heart surgery or been diagnosed with diabetes or cancer, that generally they can do it on their own.
Mm-hmm.
But the ones that really need extra help, there's usually something deeper going on. And so I discovered that there's always an emotional, whether it's a food addiction, an emotional reason that we tend to build these habits over time, where instead of feeling our emotions, we will turn to food to numb out. We all have mechanisms, things that we do to numb out.
Coping.
Whether it's coping, whether it's Instagram, whether it's,
Alcohol.
Alcohol, we all do it in some way. But some people, food is their common source where they've had a long, hard day and they just want to give themselves a treat. And so what I realize is it's just so important to feel, to be present in the moment, to be mindful of a negative emotion, and just to be curious, almost like a non-judgmental observer. Like, that's interesting. I've had a long, hard day. I really want chocolate. I wonder why.
Yeah.
And just kind of look back as a scientist and just become curious. And I always tell people, you don't have to change anything right away, but just become more curious of your habits and why you turn to certain food at certain times, and try to understand yourself a little bit more, try to step back. And then next time, maybe you can put a 10-minute timer and just sit with your feelings before you grab your treat.
Yeah.
And then, next time, maybe practice some other tips, like even just simply giving yourself a self hug. I know this sounds dumb and in the moment, but you had a really long, hard day. How about you just like bring your hands on your chest and just say, Allie, I love you. I'm sorry you had such a long day. Just like being present with yourself, giving yourself that love before you reach for the food, and then you'll see maybe you don't need to reach for the food as much because you're actually giving your body what it really needs, which is love and attention and care.
Comfort. And I love that you say that, because I agree. I think it's that sort of following the bouncing ball of why I want this, why I need this, or why I'm seeking comfort from something. Because at the end of the day, when you use something like food for reasons it's not meant for, like for comfort, that's abuse. That's what, so it's like choosing, needing to have a drink because you're stressed. You're using it for I'm not really sure what the real reason of alcohol is, but okay. So maybe that's not a good example. But food's a really tricky one, right? Because when you use food to cope, like food is a very socially acceptable piece. We need it to survive and thrive. So it's an important one. And I think, I'd love to hear your thoughts on this, but I think that when our goal is to be healthier or to lose weight, food is a critical piece of that always. And so we can kind of fixate, I think, on, like how hard it is to make meals or how hard it is to eat differently. But the work is what you were just saying to us. It's that the work that you need to do is that sitting in that moment, right? And thinking like, why am I reaching for this, or giving yourself that hug and giving yourself what you really need. I think when we see what the work is that we need to do, then it becomes easier to get to the solution or do the work. I don't know if you agree.
No, exactly. And emotions are like tunnels, like a lot of times we want to, like, I'm in a tunnel, it's dark, get me out, and you can get out by eating some food. You can get out by choosing your addiction of choice. And the hard thing, like with food, like you said, is that, I could cut out alcohol from my life. I can cut out social media. I could easily I could cut it all out. I cannot cut out food. I need it to survive. Yeah. And so really developing this relationship with food where we're using it to fuel our body and we're not using it to just numb out. Yeah. And so instead, when we feel ourselves, when we feel ourselves in that dark tunnel, to just process it, to let the emotions eat. It's like you're surfing the wave, right? Let the emotions just pass through you, feel them as if you were describing what the emotion felt like to an alien. It's like, okay, alien, right now, this is what I feel. The color is red. Like I feel it in my chest. It feels heavy like a rock, just kind of describe an emotion in your mind, just visualize it, be as visual as possible. Just sit there. And then as you can just let that emotion process, like you're going through the tunnel and you can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And we need to go through it. And besides just being aware, you could also do this by being creative. You can, if it's amazing that whether you're playing the piano or you're crocheting or whatever, a creative project actually can help move that emotion through you. Working out can help move that emotion through. Giving a hug to your kid can help move that emotion through you. Like there's so many different techniques that we can use to help move and process and surf the emotion instead of numb it and block it.
Yes. Those are amazing tips, like petting your dog, even like you're petting your animals kinds of things, but movement or hugging. I love that. That's, because sometimes it's like, you're like, I don't want to journal or sit still and meditate and breathe during this time. Like you can feel it, very, as you say, it's very visceral in there. So, that's incredible. I really love that. Okay. So we've covered obviously the massive value and health benefit and really just some key steps to just start small and the benefit of just doing the small pieces. And some other great tips for how to begin to implement this and focus on increasing plant types and plant amount in your food. And the emotional eating pieces. Is there anything else you think is so important for people to know about trying to become more plant-based or making this shift in their life?
Right, or eating healthier. I think I love the phrase perfect love casteth out all fear. And so a lot of times when something happens to us, whether for me, it was a traumatic event or when you need to make health changes, but you're afraid, if you can find a way to do it that brings love, that brings joy, that it's like, I love these foods. Let's start there. I do it from a place of love. And then your fears will go away. Like, I love my body. I love, to feel good. Just come from that place of like, this can be fun. This can be enjoyable. And I can love this process if I choose it. And so then it will easily dissipate all of the fears, all of the stuff that we hang on to when it comes to change in general. It's like, I can do this in a way that's fun, enjoyable, and I can love it.
I love that. Will you say that quote again for me, please?
Yeah. Perfect love casteth out all fear.
Perfect love casteth out all fear. I love that. That's beautiful. Thank you so much, Ali. I really appreciate it. This has been an amazing conversation. So many incredible tips. And, whether you are, for anyone I assume if most people who are listening to this are struggling with their hormones or in this hormonally shifting time, but what a powerful episode or powerful share from you to impact all of our lives, and not just us, but also, our children, if we have them, or our partners, if we have them, and our families. So thank you so much. I really appreciate it. How do we talked a little bit about a YouTube channel, about cookbooks. Tell us how everyone can get into your world more and learn more from you.
So my website is plantwise.com, and I have a ton of free recipes. And I will tell you, my favorite is the lasagna soup. So go try that out. You will need nutritional yeast and red lentils, which may be different for you that you may not have tried before, but I promise it's so good.
I'm going to make that this week.
Yes, it's so good. It's so good. So it's WHYS because I love teaching the why behind eating more plants. So WHYS PlantWise. I'm on Instagram. That's where I'm probably the most active daily. And then I'm also on TikTok as well as YouTube. But YouTube is where I really show, like if you're brand new and you want to learn how, like YouTube is where I show you the how. Instagram is where I teach you the why. And then YouTube is like, this is how we do it. Okay, beginner recipes, start here. It can be simple and it can be fun.
Oh, amazing. Thank you. That's incredible. Okay. I'm going to link everything in the show notes so that everyone can find out if they want to be working with you right now. Do you have anything going on right now that they could dive into with you or get on before we miss the opportunity?
Let me give your listeners a free 30-day trial to my membership because I think that it would be beneficial just to hop on. I have a 2-week emotional eating course that is so like, if you just have the free 30 days, if all you're in is for the free 30 days, go in straight to that emotional eating course. It will change your life. Even if you don't follow the meal plan that goes with it, just listen to the 15 days worth of videos. You will be a different person at the end of it because you will learn those emotional techniques of how to deal with your emotions instead of turning to food.
Oh my gosh, I love that. What an amazing gift. I have clients already that I'm so excited to send that to. So thank you so much, Ali. What an incredible, generous offer. And I will have to have you back on the show and maybe we can talk more about specific meals for your cycle. I feel like that could be a really fun thing to talk about. But thank you for everything. I will link everything in the show notes. You guys and sisters, go out, be more in your life and not just less on the scale. And we'll catch you next time. Thank you so much for joining me on the Period Whisperer podcast. I want to encourage you to reach out to me directly and message me if there are topics or things you're struggling with so we can address those right where you are at. And of course, if you loved this episode, if you learned something, make sure to share it with your friends and please rate and review it wherever you get your podcasts.